Peace community, welcome to All Things Genuine Podcast. I am your host, Demetria, and if you are new, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. Profound gratitude for each of you tuning in and joining me on this genuine journey. I'm back with another mini episode, and this episode, I would like to touch on a topic that I feel should be talked about more often. And that topic is around toxic mothers. This is for the daughters specifically, those that have relationships that are non existing, and you have awakened to such a reality. My intention in giving this episode is to shed light and give hope to other individuals that are also navigating through such truths. I want to say that I've discovered that no one is more jealous and envious than an unhinged mother. This is something that I have felt as a daughter. I always struggled with the way she moved and placed things in order for me as a daughter. I never felt like a daughter specifically. I always felt like I was an external energy or an enemy to her specifically. Growing up, I was always called out of my name, even talked about, and I'm not going to go deep and deep, but I've been mishandled at the worst capacity. Things that I heard growing up almost distorted my view of how I thought about myself as an individual. And all of these things start at the home. And I want to speak about that because some people will find that sometimes their mother will be their worst enemy. We've all heard the saying that sometimes your own blood is your worst enemy. Well, this is that example specifically. I often thought to myself, if love is at the forefront and you completely love yourself, why would you mistreat or mishandle someone else, especially intentionally and strategically? I feel like there were a lot of things that were given to me. They were given to me strategically for me to not have this knowing about who I am, who my father is. That was the first red flag for me, because now that I'm experiencing my own motherhood, I would never in my life lie to my son about his father. I couldn't do it anyway because he literally came out with his same face. But I find it to be a complete disgrace. And a lot of people love to say, well, you're being hard and you're judging and you're being judgmental. Then they like to reflect it back onto you as an individual. That's not my intention or a part of my agenda. I know that we are all human and we all can make mistakes, but I want to point this out in a major way. It's no longer just a mistake that a mother makes when that mother goes out of her way to orchestrate gossip and rumors from a jealous and envious space that's deeply rooted in hate. And I wanted to share this because for so long, especially on social media, there's so many or so much information around these subjects nowadays. More people are talking about what's happening regarding the toxicity of parents in general, whether it be mothers or fathers. But I want to highlight mothers because mothers have the ability to set the tone with their children. And they are the queen bees. They are the ones that run the home essentially in a way. They provide the nurturing, the care, the love, the support, right? And for somebody like me, I didn't really get that experience in my life. I'm the eldest daughter, and all my life, things have been hard for me. I've always had a great responsibility, just a responsibility in general, whether it be for myself or for my siblings. And I'm grateful for that experience because it prepared me in a way that has helped me today. And it plays a big role in how much independence I've gained. When I speak about this, it's very saddening to see and experience. And I send my heart out to you in these moments. A lot of times, a lot of us have an unconditional, undying love for our mothers. But there will come a time when we will find the truth of one another, our mothers specifically, and we will be presented with the opportunity to pivot. And that is something that I have done in essence. And I just want to speak about this because a lot of individuals are silent about the things that they experience. I know for me, for a very long time, I couldn't pinpoint down the line, what is it with me and her? Why do I feel like an external person? Why do I feel like an enemy? Because, a lot of times the way that my mother would communicate with me, she would talk to me as if I was her enemy, clearly. And it would hurt me deeply because I'm like, where is the love? Where is the guidance? Where is the nurture? But when I found that you can't expect love from a person that doesn't love themselves. Like I said once again, how can someone who hates themselves essentially love someone else? Because all I felt for the majority of my life was a sense of hatred. And then I'm met with, I do love you, but the actions are opposite of those words. So it's always been hard for me to decipher when someone really loves me or they didn't love me. But now I have that wisdom and I have that clarity. And it's because of what I went through in the beginning. And a lot of individuals, unfortunately, find this out later in life. And God does everything for a reason. All my life, I had been seeking truth. Why am I being treated so evil? Why does my very existence ruffle feathers? And when I found out more down the line, because, I suppressed a lot growing up, especially when it came to knowing the truth about my father, because it was too hurtful to process at that young of an age. And instead of me having an actual adult who was mature enough to have that conversation with me, I was met with avoidance. I was met with negligence, in essence. And it all adds up, even down to me choosing friendships in my life. Those were very reflections of my mother. And I won't say all were reflections of that because I've met genuine people on this journey. But a lot of times we meet reflections of our very, very beginnings. I made a post recently speaking to the collective about mothers and fathers and how, some people will start to see, throughout their journey that, hey, I actually discovered that I've met my father or I've met a version of my mother. And it's such an eye-opening moment. And I'll share those words verbatim. A lot of men that have mother wounds discover that they've chosen women that reflect those same wounds of their wounded mothers. And the same goes for women. When they discovered that they too have chosen men that reflect those same wounds of their wounded fathers, in essence. And it's so important to honor and pivot from what we discover as the new fathers and mothers, birthing new generations of sons and daughters. I don't ever see my child and become envious or jealous or do I have a desire to withhold? Now I see why it's been such a strong hold on withholding me. If they could, they'll put me away in a straitjacket expeditiously. Because why? No one would have to deal with me. My mother specifically wouldn't have to deal with me. I am only addressing and enlightening people because the story has been told on behalf of me instead of people coming to the source directly. Only I can tell you what my experience has been under that roof with that woman. Nobody else. And that I know many people can resonate with that piece. I see people that handle their mothers, they have boundaries. No, you cannot, see and speak to my children, especially if this is where you're going to operate from. And then you're going to pin them against me. That's another thing that I dealt with. And it was so hurtful. My son would, be influenced to come to them when it shouldn't have been that way. It takes a village. My son has this thing, well, I'll just go ask, my grandma. No, you won't. This is when I step in and I draw the line as a mother. There's boundaries. And I had to teach my son, do you see the works of the enemy working against me? Why would you want to go against what I say, especially when it benefits you in a good way, in an intentional way? And these are the things that I've had to stand up for myself and say, because I'm not allowing none of this to continue on. But I wanted to talk about, this issue because it is so evident. It is so present. I've seen so many women speak about their mothers, and I've gotten triggered because I'm like, oh my goodness, what they're talking about are the very things that I too have experienced. And it is so, profound at how these young women, these daughters, all I see are women who want that love from their mother, and they struggle to make relationships sometimes with other women, and it all has to do with the experience from their mothers. And throughout this journey, I've had to separate myself. Throughout this awakening, God has shown me, okay, now do you see why you made choices regarding certain people? Now do you see why it's important for you to see your parents specifically for who they are? And you need to heal from that, because that is a wound that will carry you, and you will attract more people with mother wounds. But these wounds, some of these individuals that I've met, they've become complacent. You know, they have this thing in their mind already planted. I don't have friends. I'm not friends with women. What are friends, And I have never thought in that way, even when I got burned by certain people, you know? I just looked at it as that was that was an example for me of how not to befriend. And people think that befriend means to, be a friend and fake. No, no, no. When you are, befriending an individual, you are their friend in essence. I never in my life used to come from a space where, I don't do women. Now I had a tight, circle at that in certain moments, but even then I had to go through another awakening. And that awakening led me back to my mother, my parents. It was all reflections of what I needed to see in order to free me of certain relationships and connections. And I'm not going to be very long with this episode. I just really wanted to shed some light, and I might make this into parts of an episode because it goes deeper than this surface level. These are the very things that mold us into the people that we become. And it's so essential. It's so vital that we learn the lessons, no matter if it is your mother. Some of you are going to be guided to separate from her. And I say that not to project or speak, but if you have resonated with any of the things that I'm saying when it comes to the toxicity of a mother, especially a mother that displays her toxic ways, she's okay with being a covert narcissist or practicing narcissism. It's a very real thing. And when you're an empath and you're in the dynamic with a narcissist, it is so important that you utilize your discernment and you protect yourselves, because I don't wish this journey or this experience in this aspect on my worst enemy. Ever. Everybody should have love from their mother, but some mothers don't come with the ability, or are they willing to be accountable. Like I said again, it's one thing to make a mistake as a human. That's one thing. But to go out of your way to orchestrate from an ill space, that says a whole nother thing. And for those of you that it resonates with, like, once again, I'm sending you so much love, so much light, because I know that that is a darkness that can really impact us. But don't let it taint you. I'm a prime example. Even though I'm looked down upon as the evil, everything that is representative of my mother, it has been reflected onto me as her daughter. I'm the evil one. I'm the villain. I'm the disrespectful, when respect hasn't even been in the picture since from the beginning. What do adults think that we don't deserve respect, even as children? You know, do you not have to respect a child? And that doesn't mean that we bow down to children, we bow down to their way. That means simply respect. Why do individuals think that we don't deserve that? And then they wonder why down and throughout life, when that child grows up into an adult, they wonder why it's a level of disrespect. And in no way, shape, or form am I condoning that, because a lot of times God will guide me to not meet them and act the same as their evil ways. And that has given me grace. That has given me so much peace, because what it does for me, let these people continue to show they're ugly. Let them. And let God handle them, because God will. Divinely. It's all timely. It's all timely. And that allows me to sleep at night in peace. I don't go to sleep having horrible dreams. I rarely have nightmares. But when I get a message in my dreams, I take it as a warning. If anything, God is going to always warn me before, and especially about the people around me. And God will warn you. And all I say to you all that resonate with this, and you too have dealt with toxic parents, mothers specifically, take that knowing with you. Always let God deal with their ugly. And with that being said, I thank you all again for tapping into All Things Genuine. Keep yourselves in alignment. Take care of yourselves. Protect yourselves. And never let or allow anyone else to tell you otherwise about yourself. Peace.